Hello, I'm Chase Wells, a scholar, leader, and now a graduate of Dayton Public Schools. I want to say thank you to Dayton Public Schools. You mean so much to me because of everything I was able to accomplish in these past 4 years of high school. In doing that, you guys created a foundation for me to rely on for my future endeavors. In these past 4 years, I have learned that having a plan is key to your success. Without a plan, you're blindly headed into life, making it hard to push yourself to that next step. DPS provides a great opportunities for students to find their plan and get them past high school as they did for me. DPS has made me a better person by introducing me to the Males of Color program back when I was a sophomore. The Males of Color program provide lots of help, fun activities, but most of all, a family. With that, I became more confident in myself and more determined to do good in my community, and that has made me into the striving young man I am today. For my future graduates, stay focused, know your plan, and be the best that you can be. You are your greatest enemy. Only you can stop you from being great. The sky is the limit. And now, this is the last episode in case you missed it for the school year. DPS High Schools held college and career signing days for seniors. These annual events allow students to declare their post-graduation plans, whether it be college, a career, entering the military, or another path. Students then sign a banner that will hang in the school next year as a reminder to other students to prioritize academics and attendance to reach their goals. Congrats to the class of 2023. The Columbus Crew mascot surprised Belhaven students for winning the March Mania attendance competition. Students were called up to high-five the mascot, receive a certificate, and get their photo taken. Keep up the great attendance next year, Bobcats. The annual All-City Arts Festival was held earlier this month. Approximately 450 students from all grade levels performed songs, played musical instruments, and showcased their artistic talents. Thank you to all who helped make the day a success. The annual employee retirement celebration was held at the Dayton Art Institute. This year, 52 retirees were recognized. The retirees enjoyed dinner, music, and then a recognition program to celebrate their years of service to the district. Collectively, these employees devoted more than 1,284 years to DPS. Thank you for your service. We wish you the best in retirement. After a long year, that's it for this episode in case you missed it. Catch us back in August for more district highlights and follow us on social media to get the most up-to-date news 24/7. I'm Chase Wells, and remember, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Class of 2023, we out.
Hello, my name is Kamaya Hilton Thomas, and I am a senior at Stiver School for the Arts. I started taking College Credit Plus classes in the 8th grade up until this year, where I recently got my associate's degree before my high school diploma. I started with very few classes, and then I just kept growing and growing. Many people recommended I keep a small course load, but I kept leveling up and taking as many as I could. So I kept maxing those hours out, and over the summer I took 16 or 15 credit hours so I can just be one step closer to getting my degree. Not many people have an associate's degree. Straight out of high school, some people, go start working without a degree, or maybe they even take a gap year or go to school. So to have that one thing done and accomplished is great. It's gonna save me a tremendous amount of money. Even though I have gotten a scholarship, it also helps though, because it's that scholarship is only 4 years. So if I go over that time, or I need to help and take other courses, I have that done. And that actually has helped me, because that's basically a free degree that I can lean back on.
Hi, I'm Haley Chavez, a media arts student attending Ponen CTC, and I'm here at Edison to interview our Student of the Month, Kennedy Thomas.
Kennedy is a leader at Edison. She always strives for excellence in her academic work, has great attendance, and follows the school's 3 Bs of being respectful, responsible, and safe. She was a member of the school's Math Olympics team. She's president of the student council, and her science fair project placed in the school's event. Kennedy is dependable, trustworthy, and is an excellent example for other students.
Tell us your name, your school, and your grade.
My name's Kennedy. I go to Edison Elementary, and I'm in 6th grade.
What are your responsibilities in student council?
As student council, my responsibility is to mostly give my opinions on things before we send it out to the school, like Spirit Week, which is this week. I had to give my opinion on most of the options for what we could do. And when we plan things like our spring dances and stuff like that, we have to make sure that we show what's best interest for the students before we post it out and make people know that what's coming.
So can you tell us a little bit about your time here and some of the teachers that have impacted you the most while you've been going here?
My time here has been amazing. I came here first when I was in 3rd grade, and I'm now in 6th grade. At first it was a little rocky because it was when the pandemic had first hit when I first got here. So I didn't really get to meet the students before we had to leave and come back. But when we came back, it was different. I met new people. I made amazing friends while I was here before I have to leave. And one of my favorite memories and my favorite
I'd like
teachers.
to call to order this August 8th review session. Madam Treasurer, may we have a roll call?
President Goodwin,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Sampson,
Present.
Ms. Wick,
Present.
Dr. Pickett,
Present.
Ms. Reiner,
Present.
Mr. Lacy,
Here.
7 present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Dr. Lawrence, I see we have 2 presentations today. Go ahead and bring up your first.
We do. OST District Review, Mindy Clark, our data guru, accountability and assessment. Come on up.
Good evening, Board President, Dr. Goodwin, Superintendent Lawrence, and board members. Thank you for having me here this evening to present our 22-23 performance on Ohio State tests. Now, I do want to preface this with, this is not public data yet. So some of these items, this has not come out yet on our state report card. So this is information that we're making instructional decisions on. So we're going to discuss Ohio State tests in 3rd through 6th grade. Students take ELA, math, and science in 5th grade only. In 7th and 8th grade, students take ELA, math, and science in 8th grade only. At the high school level, students take Algebra 1, Geometry, American Government, American History, Biology, and English Language Arts 2. Previously, students also took English Language Arts 1. We'll also talk a little bit about graduation rate and discipline or suspension rates. So in 22-23, our district performance, we had 7% of our students who were untested at a district level, with most of those occurring at the high school level. There was also a large number in middle school, but largest percentage of them were in high school. And then over 50% of our students scored in the limited area. And then we had almost 20% in basic, 13% in proficient, 6% in accomplished, 3% in advanced, and half of 1%, I'm sorry, less than half of 1% in advanced plus. So I grouped things by grade band, just kind of looking at where kids are in school and how schools are generally shaped. So in 3rd through 6th grade, this really just kind of tells a story over time about our school's performance. From 2018-19 all the way to 22-23. And I did include the COVID years just so that you could see what happened during the COVID years. You will see in 3rd through 6th grade math, there are no scores for the 19-20 school year, and that's because we weren't tested then. Okay, as well in 7th and 8th grade ELA and math. Yes.
Just real quickly, did we have any changes in the test assessments during this time period on the slide as well too for our reference?
Yes, there were also changes in which assessment was administered.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
So, so you can see how the performance changed through the years. Looking at initially in 2018, performance was above 30%. Just as a point, this graph does only go up to 40%, or the chart only goes up to 40% performance. So in 2018, 2019, those were our highest levels of achievement on average across the grade levels. Now there are schools and there are places in grade levels where that is different. However, as an average for the district, that is where we were performing in 2018, 2019. And in 22, 23, our greatest level of performance was really in that 3rd through 6th grade ELA. But our growth was shown in 3rd through 6th grade math. Our high school kind of stayed flat in performance, grew slightly, but really stayed flat overall. So, Ms. Kidd, if you go to the next one. If you look at just our high school individual test proficiency, individual tests at the high school level over time dropped, except in U.S. history, American history. And so that change column is really only referencing from 21-22 to 22-23. All right. So, K-3 literacy. All right. So in K-3 literacy, one of the things we do is our students, when they're in kindergarten, they take the KRA. And that measures it's the kindergarten readiness assessment, KRA. And so students take that assessment. They also take DIBELS in K-3 to assess where they are. And so K-3 literacy, kindergartners are assessed in the first 20 days. 1st through 3rd graders are generally assessed by September 30th. We try and assess students before that. And so that is what measures, because I don't know if you see here, it says kindergarten diagnostic to 1st grade diagnostic. So that's looking at that change. Did we move kids who were assessed in kindergarten to being on track in 1st grade when they were assessed? So that's that kindergarten to 1st grade assessment. And then from the 1st grade to the 2nd grade, the 2nd to the 3rd grade, and then the 3rd grade to the 3rd grade ELA test. And so historically, our movement in kids, or the movement that we've reported, has been in that 3rd grade to the 3rd grade test. And I use that language that we've reported because I don't know that we are reporting that accurately, because I've just assumed this role. And so that's one of those areas I need to dig into more, was that information reported accurately? That the movement of K3. But As this shows, initially, it's approximately 9% of our students who we are documenting moving to proficient. 2018 was the only year that we documented students initially in that move. And so that's why I say that it is something that we need to examine how we're documenting, because all of that comes through one of the departments that I actually supervise. And so that's one of my tasks, is to work on that part. But also to make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing to serve kids. All right, next one. 4-year graduation rate. So over the, I guess really the last 5 years, our four-year graduation rate has dipped a little bit. Part of that's due to COVID, in part because, so in class of 2020, we had that rise whenever we were given some latitude with the graduation requirements for testing. In 21, 22, and 23, we've now kind of settled as those graduation requirements have now finally settled themselves, because the new graduation requirements, Aaron, you may have to help me on this one. The new graduation requirements requiring the career activities, or I guess the options to show competency, and making sure that it is more than just students earning points. Because initially in the course of this, it was students had to earn so many points on their Ohio State tests, and now it's showing competency and then being career and workforce ready. So discipline across the district, and this is addressing specifically suspensions. Suspensions across the district since 2018, 2019 in K3 have decreased significantly. There was legislation that supported that decrease. In 4-6, also a significant decrease. In 7-8, a significant increase in suspensions. So in my opinion, something that we need to address. In 9-12 as well, a significant increase. And so that was a % change since 2018, 2019, and I did not do it as a change in prior years because of the interruption in 1920, that was an interrupted year. 2021, everybody was kind of coming back, so I was trying to take years that were the most alike, and trying to make the data consistent, and taking information that was similar. So, what questions can I answer for you?
Thank you for the presentation, and I am going to open. Hey, you guys are jumping to go, I see. All right, we'll go Board Member Lacy, then Board Member Dr. Pickett.
Yeah, I just had a couple of things. Come on. The first was on well, pretty much it has to do with all of the total presentation, but the second slide. Okay. The second, not the second slide, I'm sorry, the second graph, if you will, that showed a 5-year period. And yeah, it gives a picture of pre-COVID, we were at a level and then we dropped.
Correct.
Okay, and then, but in my memory of how we compare it to other districts, especially other urban districts, we did not drop as far as they did in general. Does that sound?
So that does sound correct. I have a document that I could reference and get back to you about that, but I just don't have it in front of me.
And that kind of goes to my point. Actually, a lot of this, if you look at it in an isolated district, it really isn't that meaningful to me, especially because it needs to be compared to other districts and other schools and stuff like that. So it is much more telling when it's told relative to other schools, because if you look at the 8 urban districts, is that right, 8? Yeah.
The urban 8?
The urban 8, yeah, okay. If you look at the chart of, I have a chart, and I brought it here to show you, just for my point, that shows the urban 8, a chart of their proficiency score over a period of, since the beginning of the proficiency score, like 23 years. And it just does this. And basically, it's all 8 are in the same dance. They're all within a few points of each other, going up and down and up in the same dance. And so, yeah, so if there's improvement relative to other districts, that's what's telling. And so that's really about the only other point. Another point, when we talk about 3rd grade, we were, myself and my colleague, Mr. Sampson, we had the benefit of talking to some teachers today, and there was teachers and administrators today, and there was some confusion about the 3rd grade guarantee. And there were people that did not understand that the 3rd grade guarantee was repealed for 22-23.
Correct.
And then I had to go home and look up what it is for 23-24. And my understanding is, and if I'm reading the ODP, the Ohio, and this is pretty important.
It is important.
Yeah.
It was all part of that
accordingly,
House bill.
it's in effect, but there's a very, very big exception to the rule, and that is if your parents want you to go ahead and go on to the 4th grade, you go on to the 4th grade. So that, to me,
Correct.
that makes it effectively null. In fact, it's basically the 3rd grade guarantee is effectively repealed for 23-24. But those are my 2 points. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I just kind of want to elaborate a little bit more on what Board Member Lacey said. I think looking at the second slide, which is like your first district performance data, it would be very helpful if I see this bell curve and how, I would like to know how these fare statewide. And usually, when we get the results, there's comparables, like how do we fare compared to the state, and how do we compare to districts that are of similar size.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely.
I can get that for you.
Yeah, because the story is not complete at this point.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'll go ahead and go. Thank you again for the presentation. And my question is more so internally, because yes, I would like to see how we compare to other places, but I also want to know, what are our plans to try to just go up some in this next school year?
To improve?
To improve, yes. Like, what are we doing different? Or where are we trying to impact to see, like I see although, and I think I made these comments in the past, we're not even at 50%, which is, we're still getting Fs across the board here. Just what's our plan? What's the goal? What we got going on?
I think that's the next presentation.
Okay. I guess I'll wait.
Set it up that way. And also, the data was not to, in any way, shape, or form, kind of tell a story. It was kind of just to say, this is where we are. And this current team that's here will be, we want to say, this is where we started. And then next year, at this point, we'll have this data, and we'll say, this is where we were relative to where we were as a district. Yes, I think other districts should be part of that data compilation as well, and we can get that to board members. I know that Cleveland and Cincinnati have not recovered to pre-COVID results. In fact, their scores are significantly worse than Dayton's over that span. So yes, there are other districts in Ohio, 8, and you are right about that up and down. But for us today, it's just to set a baseline and say, this is where we were today, and hopefully we'll be back next year with a story that's a little better.
So I just looked ahead, and that's just K through 6. What about high school? Is that another week coming?
That'll be another presentation.
Okay. Can you just give,
K6 and then 7.
if you could just give me some highlights, talk to me a little bit about what we got to look forward to.
Really, the bare bones of what you see there, anytime you want to have rapid rapid score increases, It's really about monitoring and supervision and fidelity, making sure that whatever curriculum you're using, whatever instructional strategy you're using, that you're doing it on a consistent basis. And that is part of a team effort. That's one of the reasons we keep talking about central office transformation. It's a really big team out there today. They're out here to support. And those will be the people that are in buildings helping support teachers and principals to make sure that we're actually doing what we're supposed to do every day. That's where the biggest breakdown is in schools across the country, the gap, what we call the fidelity gap, the knowing-doing gap, where you're just not doing what you say you were going to do.
Any other questions? Board Member Smith?
Thank you, Madam President. Appreciate you giving this, and I do look at it. I think where we are, I appreciate having just kind of where we are, just where we are, bare bones where we are. I think one thing that I would like to see, and I talked about it a little bit before, but seeing how this breaks out and stratify it across the district. And that way I think we can look at, if we want to see how we improve, look at where some of our greatest deficiencies are, how this relates with, how does it relate to the suspension data? If I'm looking at a child who missed X amount of days, what does that look like compared to a student that doesn't? If I look at a child who comes from different situations, I think also one thing that we have to remember when we look at our district is that when we talk about the urban 8, I almost feel like it's a misnomer because we're really not in a group. I mean, we're a district of around 12,000 students on a good day, and we're talking about the urban 8, and we're looking at Columbus, it's closer to 40,000. Cleveland, closer to 40,000. Even Akron and Toledo are above 20,000. So we're talking about districts that are sometimes 3 times as big as ours, twice the size of ours. And then also we don't put into that consideration when we look at urban 8 that our district has had a hit from charters that other districts don't. And so I think looking at that as well, because, you know, if you talk to enrollment and talk to a lot of our teachers, they know that come January, February, when we leave going to the second semester, we then get kids who are coming back or coming over from charter schools. And so that plays a part too. So I think looking at that, I think even looking at the Dayton data, and I think not just Dayton Public Schools, but looking at how it affects us. What are the scores for students who come to our school after the first quarter, come after the second quarter? We have kids, I talked to enrollment last year, we still have kids coming in the fourth quarter of the school year. So I think looking and breaking apart that, because I think I like looking at how we are compared to other districts, but I also realize that we're not like other districts. We were the hub of charter schools. So we look at our district, and even though we might compare city-wise population to other districts, their public school districts are still a majority of the students in their cities. And so I think we have to be mindful of that and then think of how do we strategize for that? How do we give children that extra bump who, a child may leave our district second grade, come back fourth grade, and they're still on that second grade level because they might have jumped around the 2 charter schools since then, or they might have been out of that. And so now you throw COVID in the mix of that as well, and saying a child who wasn't in our district when we were actively trying to get distance learning in because of COVID, with children who weren't in our district then and didn't have that going on. So now they're coming 2-3 grade levels behind at times. And so understanding that would be very helpful to me to look at that. And so I think even as a district, just to say, all right, if we're looking at how do we raise these numbers, let's really look at why we're here and look at some of the external factors that really play a part of it. Because I think we have that piece that a lot of our urban partners don't have when we talk about the city of Dayton and the state of education in Dayton. I appreciate that.
Definitely. I will work on getting you information.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presentation?
So Dr. Goodwine, you asked us, what are we going to do? So there's some data, and we have Chief of Elementary Schools, Judith Spurlock, and Dr. Leah Williams, gifted, coming up to talk about what next.
Good evening, President Goodwine, board members, Dr. Lawrence, and Treasurer Abraha. Thank you for allowing us to present tonight. I'm Judy Spurlock, Interim Chief of Elementary Schools.
I'm Leah Williams. I work with Gifted. Thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity.
Today, we're going to talk about 3 areas. Can you go to this next slide? Okay. We're going to talk about our academic framework for each grade level, K through 6, instruction, and professional learning and development. When we talked to principals in preparing for this school year, they wanted to have a framework from us in relation to the academic sections for every grade level to kind of like give them a guide for this school year in planning for their scheduling, but also for instruction. So this is a sample. This sample, we've done it for every grade level, but this is a sample, it's evidence-based. It's focusing on the Ohio Department of Education guidelines and Ohio Revised Code, and also House Bill 110. And then also social emotional needs, equity, and community building within the buildings. So when you look at this, it takes and breaks down our school day and every component of that school day, but gives flexibility and focus on instruction. When you look at Ohio Revised Code, it says that students in these grades should have 5 hours of instruction. When you look at our model, it's 5.75 hours of instruction, but it also gives us some extra time in there to add what's needed based on the needs and the data of the building. So when you break it down, you can kind of see all the areas. We really focused at every grade level, focusing on ELA, small group instructions and centers, our writing, and then our word work and fluency. And you can see that's a large portion of our day because that is where we are learning to read. So when we look at kindergarten and first grade, it's learning how to read, and then we're transitioning to learning to read and reading to learn and using our text. Then we go into our math foundations and literacy and workshop and centers. That's 90 minutes. And then we have social studies, science. We also have our unified arts, which is important. And then we have a 30-minute area for every grade level. It's a little different focus. We have the opportunity for buildings to build in a morning meeting in a classroom, to develop some social emotional learning work. If you need some additional time to add on maybe a focus in STEM, but also some time for transitions and for restrooming, because that's very important if you ever have the little ones. And then also time for our dismissal, which breaks in our school day.
So looking at co-teaching, we've talked about that before. Co-teaching is a collaborative approach to instruction in which 2 teachers work together to plan and then implement high-quality, standards-based instructions for all students in their class. So that's the definition of co-teaching. Then we looked at a great deal of research. So urban school districts research has determined the following effects for co-teaching: improved student outcomes, increased teacher collaboration, positive impact on classroom management, enhanced inclusion and equity, positive teacher and student experiences, and impact on school climate and culture. In another research study, we found that all learners can benefit from additional resources and support. It's increased one-on-one interaction between teachers and students having this co-teaching model. Students receive personalized instruction. Teachers create stronger, more inventive lessons focused on student outcomes. Co-teaching increases professional growth in all subject areas.
As we start this new school year, we really have focused on some professional development. And so this week and going into this next school year, we look at PD for our new science adoption K-12, co-teaching PD for grades 1 through 3, Teach Town, which is that OEC program that was mentioned at the last meeting for 4 through 12, and the specialized units, preschool creative curriculum, EL training, equity, and professional learning communities. And then specifically, we're really pushing for buildings to have specific based PD based on their needs and their data. And this week, this is just some examples that I've seen because we had principal retreats this week and school retreats with their staff, and also in planning for the opening of school year. So we've seen climate and culture surrounding social emotional learning, culture responsive instruction and equity, implicit bias training, and then a lot of restorative practices. But that culture is really important because you build the climate and then the culture comes when you have a strong climate. And then some instructional practices that I've seen this week is standard-based instruction, assessments, data analysis, literacy, and STEM.
Do we have any
Okay.
questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
I do have,
Board mem-
one more slide in the presentation that I have. Middle school and high school?
Yeah, we had talked, we had a little slide in there talking about some new opportunities for math and for pathways. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So we're implementing an element in middle school where we have an instructor that's going to be doing a virtual class for pre-algebra students selected from various schools so that they can all get that benefit, and also an algebra one because pre-algebra and algebra are so important for their future development in math. So another virtual class on algebra for those students. And then there are some pathways created between Dunbar and Thurgood Marshall as well to benefit the students.
Thank you, guys. I think I saw a board
And that
member.
really is it.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? Go ahead, Board Member Lacy.
Okay, I'll start off again. And then referencing our talk with that Mr. Sampson and I had with a few teachers, it was very nice to see the schedule, although it's not really a schedule, it's basically just a, where was it?
The framework. Should have
Yeah,
been slide
framework,
three.
okay. It would be nice to see how that compares to the current year, or to the previous year.
Certainly,
Yeah.
we can provide that.
Yeah.
I can go pull one out. Absolutely.
And this is just third grade, and that's fine if
We were just giving an example, but we can provide the schedule for all the grade levels in K6 if the board would like.
And then, going off also on the discussion with the teachers, their biggest problem with the previous framework, and this was to different teachers, was the amount of time. And you remember the term off-ranch, am I saying it correctly?
Yes, they did.
They had to go off-ranch because they didn't have enough time in the day to get to all the different courses and so forth. So I'm assuming that this new framework adds 2 new daily 30-minute instruction pieces, or at least 2 for social studies and science, does it not?
It does.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, and I was saying that the conversation was that teachers felt there needed to be more time for ELA because there's so many components to it, and this new schedule addresses that as well.
I mean, maybe I heard them wrong, but it just seemed like they didn't have time to get to everything. And I would wonder that and although the hours are cut, adding 2 new courses, or 2 whole different courses, I don't know how that would help. It actually sounds like it might make it a little bit more difficult to get through the day.
So when you see the previous schedule, I think that
Okay.
you put them side to side, you'll see that it was a block for ELA, a block for math, and then in the afternoon, the groups flipped. And again, it was another block for ELA and another block for math.
And then also, the problems moving on, the problems with co-teaching versus dual teaching, or the problem with dual teaching. And this was from multiple teachers too. The biggest problem was when you get paired with a teacher that either you don't get along with or has a different teaching style or there's some problems with how they're working together. And how does co-teaching address that problem?
Certainly. So the group of teachers that we met talked about those issues, really making sure that those teams were really important in working together. And a lot of issues were in year 1 and 2 as we were kind of figuring that out. But when you look at that climate and culture piece and making sure that they have input in selecting their partners, but also making sure there's time for team building. That's critical. Anytime you work with somebody new, building in that team building. And so part of a PD that we are doing on Thursday discusses that. What happens if this happens, and how do we develop strong teams and collaborate and making decisions and working together. It's a collaborative process. When you look at co-teaching, it's planning together and working together instead of I'm planning mine in this side of the room and I'm planning mine in this side of the room, and they're each doing their own thing at the same time. And that's very different than collaborative planning and working together.
Okay, we'll collaborate. And then, okay, then of course, the new framework takes out Mind Play and Success Maker.
So if you look at that new framework, it talks about times for centers and it's time for work. So that could be a moment where a student, if a teacher felt that Mind Play or Success Maker was needed for that student, part of that center work could be a piece of Mind Play or Success Maker based on the needs and the data.
So we're continuing with Mind Play.
Yes.
Have we paid for it?
Nope.
We will.
Okay.
Or to be cut off. We will.
And just to go forward, I mean, the problem, really, I think only one teacher had a problem with Mind Play. I didn't hear a problem with Success Maker. The problem was when Mind Play would move on to, I guess in third grade, the example given was when it moved on to adverbs, and the students weren't ready for adverbs, or really her lesson, they had not been in her lesson plan as of yet. And I really respect the teacher that had that problem, and I respect her lesson plan, but Mind Play is built differently. It's a program. The Mind Play program pretty much, I think, this is how it works after talking to the vendor. It asks those kids a lot of questions, and it pretty much determines that individually, per kid, this kid is done with these other things and is ready to move on to adverbs. And so that is how these programs work. There are programs that work like just a regular teacher's lesson plans that teaches every single kid the same thing and doesn't move on to the next thing until everybody's ready. And we don't use those programs for, I think, a good reason. This is a very diverse district. We have, I mean, it's an urban district, and we have a lot of the diversity that Columbus has and other urban districts have. And in a diverse district, I think having programs like Mind Play and Success Maker that actually work individually with the students is very helpful and has been very helpful in the success of some of our schools over the past few years. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a comment. You guys. All right, I'm gonna go. 'Cause, then I guess you got. Question about the schedule itself, and I know we've had this discussion a couple times as a board. Recess and the amount of time that the kids actually get for it. Looks like it's still at that like 10-minute balance there, because I see lunch and recess are together. In this new model, is there a way that you guys can really look at giving them an adequate amount of time for a recess that's not necessarily a third of lunch? Because right now, I mean, it's like a third of lunch in the reality of what we see. Like either they have to hurry up and eat so they can go outside, or they eat and they get minimum time outside.
Dr. Goodwin, that 30 minutes is pretty standard. We can, with Kathy Defer and some support from lunch itself in terms of how custodians operate, how principals set up the schedule for in and out, how many recess supports we have. We can take a look at that. We can actually monitor that and get back with you and say where we are, and then make tweaks and adjustments to that 30 minutes to make sure they have enough time to eat and be outside for recess.
Thank you. Board Member Wick.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. On the piece, the academic framework, where it's kind of laid out the subject area activity, and the minutes per day spent doing this instruction, are those, so it's a suggested framework. Will that morning piece is pretty rigorous. I'm third grade, that's a pretty rigorous schedule. And that takes me to about 12:45, like if I'm going through all of those things before I have lunch or a break or anything?
That's not in order.
Okay,
Because,
Thank you, I was a little
right,
nervous.
no,
I'm like,
that's just
oh my
the
God.
framework.
Yeah.
Because because you might have specials in the morning, you might have specials in the
Right.
afternoon, lunchtime. So that is just the overall, and then it's up to the principal and the teacher team to kind of schedule, what does that look like, which comes first. We know that studies show that reading and literacy is better in the morning than in the afternoon, but that's where that teacher team and the principal move that schedule and make it adjusted for that building and when they have their specials and when they have their lunchtime. So they adjust all of that.
Great, thank you. I knew you guys were really on fire and you were really going to challenge our kids this year, but I was like, are they doing this every day? Thank you, I appreciate you.
Board Member Smith.
Thank you, Madam President. First off, I want to say I appreciate you guys presenting to us. And first, I do echo some of the concerns of Dr. Goodwin when we talk about that time around lunch and recess, especially when we look at even some of our younger kids. I know having talked to some parents and seeing some and talking to some of the kids and just seeing and being in the buildings and, knowing that, we might have this block, but depending on what happens that day, something can happen. A kid gets sick in the line. Things get, somebody might get there, they might not get their food. And I've seen and talked to kids who are like getting it and shoveling it in their mouths or like, you know what, I'm gonna eat this apple and I'm out because I'm trying to get outside. But I do appreciate, Dr. Lawrence, what you were talking about. I think it does take a team effort to look at it. So looking at nutrition services, looking at, what are the operations of this piece to say, how do we get them there? How do we make sure that we're doing this? How do we get it safe? Then also, on top of that, understanding that there's a need, that release, that, bless our teachers and everybody that works in elementary school. Kids are energetic, I'll say that. But the other piece that I wanted to talk about with that, and I appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing that, because I know that was also a concern of parents. And I saw parents at various schools raise that concern and have conversations and wanting to see how does that look like. So I think giving them more information, Dr. Lawrence, about what it looks like, standardized across different districts, and then looking at how can we maximize that opportunity as well. When we look at this, I'm also thinking about, as we look at our HR week after week and we see long-term teachers and we see new teachers, and how are we helping our young teachers as we switch to this? How are we helping them come in and be successful? How are we connecting and giving them mentorship and guidance from their peers as well? How can we successfully use these models to make our teachers come in and want to stay and love being successful? Because the thing I do not like is seeing people come into our district and leave in just a revolving door. I hate that kind of, and you think, what did we miss out on? So I'm thinking that piece, and then also looking at this framework, and it may not be done, but how are we looking at utilizing just the entirety of our campuses as well? When we're looking at, I remember when I was in school, having that opportunity, let's go outside and do this reading enrichment outside. It's a nice day, let's go sit out here. And especially with the work that our operations and grounds crew do. They do a great job, elementary and high school level, especially at the high school level. We can say for another day since we're talking this level, but is there any conversation, any latitude with our principals and APs and our teachers to say, hey, we might want to do this and go outside? Can we take this out in the courtyard? Can we take this out here and do these kind of things, like utilize the spaces that we have? Has there been any conversation around that as well? So a two-part thing about the helping our young teachers succeed, and then also that latitude to be flexible with how they deliver within the framework that you guys set forth.
Absolutely. I'm going to start with the last part first. So when the latitude for the schedule is, when we look at kindergarten, we all know that kindergartners take a little while longer to eat. And even in Ohio Revised Code, it says that there can be multiple recesses for kindergarten. And so a lot of times what happens is that we have the flexibility for them to be in their lunch period the whole time and then add recess after that or before that, because we know that they need that. Within that schedule, there's a lot of flexibility too. And absolutely, we have teachers that go outside, and that's the best place for science to explore, for us to have a reading lesson that involves nature. So the other piece of that is that within that schedule, it's that 30 minutes. You can move that 30 minutes wherever you need it to be. Like, I need 5 minutes here because I need a brain break. I need this 5 minutes because my class is all over the place, and we need to reset ourselves and do an SEL, body moves. You know what I mean? You know exactly what I'm talking about, because that's what we need. We have to have flexibility, and we have to empower our teachers to use their data, get to know their kids and their relationships, and make calls. So principals have that ability to give that to our teachers, and that flexibility to do that. We did see at New Teacher Orientation our long-term subs. And I spoke there, a lot of people spoke. And when we get into the building, this gives our long-term subs a framework, because we don't want to let them go. The other thing is they should have a mentor within the building. A lot of our buildings have teacher leaders that support not only our new teachers, but also support our long-term subs, because that's critical. But having a framework for people that are stepping into that role, and having a co-teacher maybe to help them, that's what it's all about, collaborating and moving students forward, because that's our focus, is having warm, inviting climate, students that want to come to school, for us to add all those wonderful activities. When I spoke to a teacher the other day, I can add those activities, I can add those pieces to the curriculum, and now I have the time to be a little more flexible. And that's what we have, that ability within the schedule.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Board Member Reiner?
Good evening, thank you for coming. Will there be any adoption of new curriculum, since we've already approved the curriculum for this year, to adjust for these changes?
So we already have done that for 1, 2, 3 for science. We're still getting ready for social studies. That's going to be the next step.
Okay, what is the curriculum that you've chosen?
It is Amplify, that was done on Saturday. So it's a continuation. That's what they're already doing in kindergarten. That's already what they're doing in 4, 5, 6. So it's a continuation. So students that move from kindergarten to first grade, I'm already familiar with how this is set up.
Okay, thank you. And do you happen to have, I asked at the last business meeting, I'd like to see the curriculum that we had last year for 1, 2, and 3. Do you have that now, or is that going to be next week?
The curriculum for 1, 2, 3 for science?
Well, I think it was My View that I.
Okay,
the
okay.
curriculum.
Absolutely.
I mean, whatever curriculum we have for grades 1, 2, and 3. I just wanted to look at the curriculum and the things that we were teaching in these classrooms last year.
Absolutely, because that was adopted the year before, was the My View. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so next week?
Yes.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I have one more question for you. With the selection of the social studies curriculum, is that going through the same process that, like how textbooks and things are selected with a team of individuals?
We need to move quickly because we need to have one for 1, 2, 3. But yes, there will be a process that would go and that will be led by purchasing to help us through that process.
Are you bringing in, because I know in that process, it's like a diversity of people from the organization. So are you guys going to try to ask those same people who did the last one to come back for you, or?
Probably, because we probably want a continuation with kindergarten in 4th grade, because that's really important. But they'll definitely, I don't know what that process will look like, but as soon as we establish that, we will make sure that you have that, because it does need to have people coming in to view it and making decisions.
Okay, one final question. Can you tell me, who is Jeremy Kinsey, and like, where is he located out of? He's referenced on the research on co-teaching.
He was an author, so we wrote an article. Yes. So I just connected that to some of the information we had above.
About what area is he from? I tried to look him up, and some weird stuff came up, so
I will.
I don't think I have the right person.
I will get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, if there are no other questions, I believe there's a second presentation.
Oh, that's it.
No, it's another one on here that say.
No.
That's it?
That's
Okay.
it?
That's it. Gifted services
It
model?
say gifted
Yeah,
services.
there's another presentation.
I did not make that up. I did not make that
That's
up.
it.
It is, it's right below it. Oh, wait, do we need to refresh? Is that not today?
It is today. I thought it was further down in the agenda, so I
Okay.
can come back or I can talk
Yeah.
about it now.
Refresh this, no, click on gifted. Click on
Go for
that second, no, for that. It's the second one on there.
Oh, got you. It's 2. Oh,
Yeah.
got you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Back to you.
Thank you very much. So we have a current gifted model, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So the current gifted model doesn't allow gifted students to be taught in a classroom or setting with non-gifted students and does not allow equity in our gifted programming. So there are gifted classes currently of about 1 student to an average of 7 students. The gifted and LIDI students, those are our potentially gifted students that are chosen based on building norms for our summer program for the past 2 years. They're taught on separate days under the current 1-day-a-week pullout model, and it's not using our resources very well and our teachers very well, so we were looking at a different model. So this is the current one, a 1-day-a-week pullout program. Currently, we're serving the LIDI students and the gifted students under the same curriculum. It's a STEM-based high literacy curriculum, but they have to be pulled out on separate days. So the gifted intervention specialists pull the gifted out one day and the LIDI students out a different day, but the curriculum is identical. And at the bottom, that's just the reference to the ODE definition of this particular model. So under the next model, the new gifted model would allow a 1-day-a-week pullout program still, but we could combine the gifted and LIDI students together. We would still be using the STEM-based high literacy curriculum, and with this new gifted model, it would create a culture of equity through collaboration and communication. So basically, under the current model, they have to be taught separately. Under the new model, the only change is they can be taught in the same room. So the recommendation is based on more gifted and potentially gifted students would be provided supports on a consistent foundation of equity for traditionally minoritized and marginalized students. As a result of the 2 years of LIDI summer camp, and because those LIDI students were also pulled out each year in the 1-day-a-week model, we have some LIDI students who've already transitioned to gifted. Out of the 150 LIDI students, we only had about 5 that needed to retake the 3rd grade reading guarantee. So we feel that it's a very effective model. We would just like to change it so we could have those 2 groups taught at the same time.
Okay, any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Combining these 2 groups, are we going to be able to provide individualized education for both of them? Because I'm assuming that there's going to be some different needs from both groups, right?
There absolutely are. And one thing we've been able to do with LIDI is we've really pulled in some of the EL students as well. We've worked with a lot of different groups because we know that students can process and produce their abilities in different ways. So even within those gifted LIDI classes, there are several grade groups together. There always have been, but it allows us to differentiate. Absolutely. That is part of the process.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Lawrence, your first recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Goodwine. I recommend approval of the following Human Resources 48-hour waiver.
All right, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. This 48-hour waiver request has names listed. Are we voting on them, or are we just doing a 48-hour waiver?
48-hour waiver. They're listed on the next item with all the HR resource items.
I must need to refresh.
There's 2 files listed on the next one.
Got you. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead.
So, seeing that in the next one, it's 2 different groups, are we then putting both human resources together? Well, I'll ask, if this goes through, would we be then putting them
It
together?
depends how the motion is put on the floor. You can move to put them together. We can move the vote for them separately. Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, we are voting on waiving the 48-hour rule, just so everyone's clear. Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote?
President Goodwine,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay, your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following human resources.
Are you recommending the approval of both together? Or
Yeah.
se-
I'm recommending approval of both together.
All
Thank you,
right,
Dr.
is
Goodwine.
there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Board Member Sampson?
Thank you so much. Because there's 2 different sheets, the first one, I would like to pull number 8 on the first human resource to be separate, to vote on separately.
Okay,
And then also on the 48-hour waiver, I just need point of clarification. Number 16, is there a need for a motion to reconsider because that individual had a no vote this past Saturday?
there was not a majority on either side, so a motion to reconsider should not be necessary. Also, in our past practice, when we did not approve the principles the following meeting, we did allow that to come on. So we've created precedent that they could be put back on. But yes, there was no majority vote on the last one.
So,
So I would say no, but let me ask the parliamentarian if he has a different interpretation.
I do not. I concur.
Okay,
Madam President, can we ask legal, please? Because I'm trying to figure out if there was no majority vote, how to vote.
the motion failed because there wasn't a majority in the affirmative or negatives, and without a majority vote, a motion fails.
So can we ask legal for me, please?
Legal.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just have a note here on this issue. So, generally speaking, when something, when an item is defeated, it does not necessarily need to have a motion for reconsideration. However.
Can you come say that on the mic, please, so the
Yeah.
minutes can get you? Thank you.
So typically, there is a motion reconsideration does not apply when an action is defeated. So if it's not approved, and generally that's for reconsidering something that has been approved.
Correct.
The only thing that there is in the policy is that, their statement, there is a statement that no question that has been decided by the board can be reconsidered without a motion for consideration from the prevailing side within 1 year. And I think the question here is does.
There was
when-
no
when a
prevailing
vote has
side.
not been if
Correct.
a vote has not been approved, has it prevailed? So I think, generally speaking, I wouldn't, I think that it's, that policy doesn't seem to necessarily apply here. And I think that if you have a majority vote to move forward, it should be sufficient.
Appreciate it.
So long as it's noted for the record that we, have the majority vote.
Correct. All
Thank you,
right.
Madam President.
All right, so we have pulled number 8 from the first one, correct?
Yes.
All right, Board Member Smith.
Yes, ma'am, I would like to ask if we could, if we would need a vote to do it, no, it's fine, to table number, I have to get it pulled back up, number 2,
To what date?
to our business meeting.
You don't believe you need a vote to do a table? So long as you said no day. Are there any objections to tabling until the next meeting? All right, is there anything?
one?
Number 2 on the first one.
Madam President, I have a question, please.
Point of order, please, sir. Go ahead, Board Member.
Regarding number 16, since I was not here when discussion about this and the semi-confusing vote happened, I would like to move to dismiss to executive session to discuss the appointment or employment of an employee, so I can get some clarification on this, please.
Can we actually just pull it and wait till we go into executive session since the personnel versus going right at this moment?
I would be comfortable with that. I withdraw my motion.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. On the waiver of the 48-hour group, Madam Treasurer, pulling number 16
Number
to be
8.
voted for. Number 8 is right now for a separate vote on the regular HR, and number 16 on the 48-hour waiver one to be voted for on after executive session.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? All right, seeing no, and we tabled number 2 on the HR agenda till the next business meeting. Do you have all those, Madam Treasurer?
Yes.
All right. Anything else? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
Can we just have clarification? This is the first human resources document and the second minus number 2, number 8, and 16. Am I correct?
2 and 8 on the first document and 16 on the 48-hour waiver document. So yes.
Oh, I thought when we said first document, we were talking about the 48-hour.
No, first document listed under HR. It
Okay.
says human resources, so number 2 and 8 are not in this vote. And on the HR 48-hour waiver, number 16 are not in this vote.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right, anything else? All right, Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, your next recommendation.
My next recommendation is contracts that board members review, the contracts that are
Madam
posted.
President, point of order,
We
please.
need to
Yes.
Don't we need to vote on
Oh,
number
sorry,
8?
forgot. Number, what number was that?
Number 8.
All right, number 8. Are there any questions or anything? All right, Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote?
Okay.
Do we need a motion and a second on number 8?
It was on the original motion right there. He just pulled it to be voted on separately.
Okay, I agree.
Okay. President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Abstain.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 abstain.
All right. Now, Dr. Lawrence, your next recommendation.
I'd like to move that the board waive the 48-hour rule for contracts and agreements.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's just for one. Is it just for this one?
Just for one, yeah,
Correct.
just for that
I'll
one.
second.
This one is for a vote, but not this is the 48-hour waiver, and then we'll vote on the one that's for a vote. All right, moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Who moved?
Seeing none, may we have a vote on the 48-hour? Board Member Wick, and then Board Member Lacy second.
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wiggany,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, is there a motion to approve the contract?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
You can do Board Member Smith or Board Member Lacy for the second, Madam Treasurer.
Lacy beat me by a millisecond, just like when we race.
All right, are there any questions on this contract? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Your next recommendation, that's not for a vote, but just for a review, correct?
It's just for review. I recommend that the board review the current consultant contracts.
All right. Contracts, just contracts.
It's contracts, consultant contracts.
All right, are there any questions on the contract items? Give you guys a second to check them out.
I have a question, Madam President.
Go ahead.
About the Siemens Industry to upgrade the smoke detectors and fire alarm system located at Ponet's Career Center. It says upgrades are required due to current smoke detectors are no longer manufactured. Are there the same type of smoke detectors in our other schools that need this attention as well too, or is it just Ponet's?
Mr. Rayford, can you speak to that?
Yeah,
Wait,
Hang on a
come to
second,
the
come to
mic.
the microphone, please.
Yeah, so we're currently looking at all the schools because we do have more than just smoke detectors that are outdated. So we're doing a round at all the schools to see what all other equipment are outdated too. But right now, this is an urgent need.
Okay, is there a schedule, what's the schedule for checking all the smoke detectors and making sure that
So
the safety of our
we got
students and staff?
the fire, we're starting to do our fire inspections now before school starts. So we'll have a better handle on it after the fire inspection's done. We want to get the school started first, and then we'll go back around and check everything. But these two malfunction, and the system tells us when they malfunction, and we want to replace them. That's why we want to replace them.
Okay.
Now, so we have an active system.
Thank you, that's helpful. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Board Member Sampson.
Just want to point out for ProPio LS, it says 630-34. I think it should say 24.
I mean, maybe we go into 34. For $20,000, it may be a great deal. All right, Board Member Smith.
Thank you, Madam President. And I was gonna call Mr. Rayford back up here, but I'm not gonna do that. It's the same way. Now, for hometown ticketing, when do we expect all of those things to be ready to be utilized by the district? Superintendent Lawrence?
Chief Jones and I have not finalized that discussion. We missed each other this week, so I can send you an email and get that back to you by Thursday morning. I'm supposed to see you tomorrow afternoon.
Appreciate that, sir. No other questions, Madam President?
I have a follow-up question for you on that one. Since the start date looks back in July 1 and we are now at August 8th, are we currently utilizing this system right now and they just giving us some time to get back with them?
We were in a committee meeting together. I don't think we've utilized it. Yeah, but she didn't speak to us utilizing it. Did say it was urgent to get it done now though for football season.
Okay, so if we can just remember, we meeting you, because I might remember, to ask if we're paying for the month for July or are we starting in August? Because if we didn't get service in July, why would we pay for that month?
You want a refund?
You know it. Put it back on our books. All right, any other questions? All right, your next recommendation?
D. Next recommendation is consulting contracts for review.
All right, are there any questions? Give you guys a second to look at them. Any questions? Board Member Smith?
Just one quick one. What are plans, if any, to take whatever we get from this external evaluator as we look at our 21st century programs at Kaiser, Cleveland, and Westwood? How are we planning to utilize whatever data we get from them to implement into our programs?
Thank you for question, Vice President Smith. Mindy Clark and I spoke earlier today and yesterday. We're going to have a psychometric evaluator. So earlier you talked about how to look at data in context, and you mentioned all different types of quantitative and qualitative data. We have to get better at not looking just at surface data, but taking those next steps. And so we are going to have a consultant come in to do that. And so this will be part of that work.
Oh, I appreciate that. Was Ms. Spurlock, were you about to say the same?
All right.
Of course.
All right, any other questions? All right, your next recommendation?
My next recommendation is to recommend the approval of the permission for gifted coordinator to change ODE gifted model.
All right, the resolution?
Yep.
All right, are there any questions?
I have a question about this, Madam
Go
President.
ahead.
Since we are changing away from the ODE model, I assume that since it's a model, it is not a hard and fast set standard that we have to adhere by. I just want to make sure that the change isn't going to put us at any risk of not adhering to ODE standards, just for my information.
That's an excellent question, thank you. They are both ODE models, so it just has to be approved by the board. I've spoken with ODE several times to clarify, to make sure that we are doing what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate the clarification.
All right, any other questions? Your next recommendation?
My recommendation is that the board review the final contract for the school psychologists, Local 766.
Okay, are there any questions? All right, your next recommendation?
Next recommendation is the same, to review the final contract for Local 643 paraprofessionals.
Are there any questions? Board Member Smith?
No question, just comment. I just want to thank everyone involved. I always want to appreciate our union leadership and our district team that works on these. Just always want to lift up all of the staff that are in our district. And as many may not know, there are a lot of labor unions that make up Dayton Public Schools. And so when we have these and we come to the table, I appreciate the work that goes in to making sure that there's some fairness in these agreements. And I want to thank everybody there. And as we get into the school year, to lift up all of these groups that really play a part in our children's lives. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll make comments when we actually approve it, so I'll follow you up on that one. Does that conclude your recommendations?
Madam Council President, that does.
Thank you. Madam Treasurer, your first recommendation?
Okay. All my recommendations are not for vote. We are amending, we are issuing our permanent certificate of estimated resources because we know our revenues from the state, and we know we closed the year, fiscal year 2023, and we know we threw up with the fund balances, so now we are ready to issue permanent certificate of estimated resources.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, your next recommendation?
Next one is accordingly permanent appropriations. Since we know our funding, we are asking to approve permanent appropriation budget.
Are there any questions? I just have one question on the permanent appropriations. Have Superintendent Lawrence and Madam Treasurer, have you two been able to get together to review the request to make sure we are good to go? Any adjustments that needed to be made have been made before we approve our permanent budget?
The two of us have not individually got together, but however, Treasury did come and have a presentation at Cabinet, which is the entire organization now is part of Cabinet, to go through budgets, and then we had a brief discussion after that. The Treasurer has been available. I have been out in the building, so it's been my fault, and I will catch up with her this week.
Thank you. All right, are there any other board member Smith?
I will just ask the same from being out in the district and seeing requests were asked from different departments or concerns from different departments as things are moving and different moving pieces. I definitely want to reiterate from President Goodwine, seeing if you guys can make sure before we get something, if we can actually get it before next week too, so we can review as a board to make sure that we're in good standing as far as the needs from our department. Appreciate it.
We did analyze the requests, and we appropriately put into our budgetary what we can afford
Okay.
for that.
Okay. Your next recommendation?
Okay. Interfund transfers, permanent transfer, we are transferring because of the funding from general fund, we are transferring it to permanent improvement fund, so the operations department can do their work. So we transferring 2 million from general fund to permanent improvement, and 500,000 from funds from general fund to fund 13.
Okay, any questions? All right, your next recommendation?
D, monthly financial report for July. This one is a placeholder until we meet with the finance committee on Thursday. So it will be reviewed and discussed with the finance committee on Thursday, and for Tuesday, it will come to the board for approval.
Okay. Your next recommendation?
The next one is minutes for July 11, July 18, and July 27. I don't think you'll have a question on that one. We'll go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is then and now. Look at the then and now, and if you have any questions, we will
Any questions?
answer.
All right, seeing none, your next recommendation?
Next one is purchase requisitions. These are from several different departments. Let's look at them, and we'll answer any questions you may have.
All right, I'll give people a moment to check them out. All right, are there any questions? You need more time to look? Board Member Smith?
Thank you, Madam President. More so a question about the tuition reimbursement for our CTE teachers. Superintendent Lawrence, can you tell us if you know where we are with that? How many teachers that we have completing that? And then are we making sure that we're going to be on track for them to get the licensure that they'll be needed?
I had a long talk with Dr. Michelle Rommel on Friday, and we did not get to that. It was part of our agenda, so I will follow up with her.
Appreciate you, sir.
Comments.
Any other questions? Okay, does that conclude your recommendations?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Kidd, first reading, are those gonna be on here when we come back down, or? Okay. 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 In so much as the Board of Education is committed to the continuing updating of its policies, rules, and regulations, manuals, and the committee which was appointed has been working towards that goal. The following is brought at this time for a second reading in compliance with the board file. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Dayton City Schools, Montgomery County, Ohio hereby accepts, adopts the following policies that have been codified for inclusion in the Handbook of Policies, Rules, and Regulations. FOUL, GBH, Staff Student Relations, GBT, Rehiring Policy, GBU, Relationship and Fraternization, GCB-2, Professional Staff Contracts and Compensation Plans, GCBBB, Supplemental Compensation for Administrators, GCD, Professional Staff Hiring, and GM, also GBH, Staff Student Relations. I move that we adopt the following policies. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
I have some questions, Madam President.
Go ahead.
I raised some questions and objections to this policy last month. Have there been any changes to it since that time?
Which policy?
Policy GBU and policy GBH and JM.
GBH.
Staff-student relations, relationship and fraternization, and staff-student relations, which is GBH and JM.
Did you submit
reference
any,
each other.
Did you submit anything in writing to be changed?
I wasn't told that that was a requirement.
Oh. Then I'm going to tell you no, nothing has been changed because I haven't received anything. I did hear your comments, but I haven't received anything.
Okay,
Is
I
there
have
something you'd like to put on the floor to be changed?
I would like to ask some questions about this. Does this policy explicitly include board members? Do these policies explicitly include board members?
The policies are related to the staff who they actually have legal authority over. The board members don't have legal authority to staff as staff members because we are not employees.
So they do not explicitly include board members?
That is correct.
What happens if there's an improper, unprofessional relationship between board members and direct reports or employees?
In what regards?
What happens if there's an improper and unprofessional relationship between board members or between a board member and direct report or between a board member and employee?
My assumption is that we would probably get sued the same way it would be, but there's no discipline for us other than a lawsuit.
So you're saying that we are not explicitly including board members in a policy that will protect employees and board members from unprofessional behavior?
I'm saying that you did not submit anything in writing, as you stated last week.
I was not told that I needed to submit anything by writing, and you said that you acknowledged my concerns.
I did acknowledge, but again, Board Member Reiner, the same as anybody person up here, you can submit anything in writing or put anything on here or vote for the affirmative or vote against it.
So what if a board member makes an accusation against another board member?
I think you already know the answer to that process because we've already exhausted it on this board in our time together.
Should an employee or a board member have to work in a hostile work environment that does not protect board members or respond to allegations?
Board Member Reiner, I am not answering any more questions because at this juncture, it is up for a vote.
Okay, so I'm going to say this is why it matters that we explicitly include board members in policies such as this, including these 3 policies that I named and the sexual harassment policy that failed last year. We must include board members in policies like the fraternization policy that I tried to update but failed, because saying that board members have legal options available to them and failing to update our policy reflects our values and is shameful. Policy exists to state what is and is not acceptable in an organization. By refusing to update district policy to include board members explicitly, we are saying that unprofessional, possibly illegal, and traumatizing behavior is acceptable. This isn't about what happened to me, and this hasn't been what happened to me for a very long time. This is about ensuring that our staff, our employees, and our board members all exist in an environment where we are valued, where our safety is paramount. By refusing to update this and other policies, we are complicit in keeping women and employees unsafe. So I have questions for my colleagues right now. Have you any knowledge of a board member making an accusation of harassment or improper behavior against another board member?
Point of order.
Raise your hand.
Point of order.
No, I'm not finished.
Point of order.
This is about this policy, Dr. Goodwine.
Point of order. I still call. Was it called a question?
Raise your hand if you do not know about an allegation that was made.
Call a question.
Raise your hand if you supported an investigation into the allegation. I would like to note that nobody raised your hand when I asked if they do not know about an allegation.
Definitely said point of order.
That is
You're talking
all I
about
have,
following
Dr.
rules, and you have a person explicitly not following rules. Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote? Are there any other questions or comments? Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. Question I have is, with these policies, I know that there is a policy committee. For there to be questions, was these policies being proposed for vote presented to the policy committee to review, so these questions could have been filtered before it got to this point?
Policy committee did vote on these, and if anyone wants to submit anything, the process is that you submit that in writing to the superintendent's office. And we can ask Ms. Kidd if she received anything. To my knowledge, we have not. Ms. Kidd, have we received any comments in writing on the policies? Thank you.
No, what my question was, Madam President, is these revisions that says revised to adjust district practices or the new policies, were they presented in policy committee for the policy committee to address these changes? Because when it says revised to adjust district practice, what was the practice that it is addressing? Was this conversation taken in policy committee before it was presented to us to vote upon today?
The conversation that Board Member Reiner is talking about?
No, I'm not talking about that.
No, so everything did go through policy committee, the same way every policy goes through there to go through discussion and for that committee to vote before it comes here. So it did follow our existing policy of how we bring policies to the board.
So
Correct.
for the record, you're saying that all of the policies where the lines in the red, the additions, those were added in policy?
Correct.
Everyone in the committee?
Every single one of them were added in there and voted on formally by the committee.
Got it. Thank you.
Dr. Goodwine, is it policy
I'm
that we
sorry.
have
I'm
to?
sorry, Board Member Lacey
I have a
was
question.
next.
Oh,
He was next, though.
Sure.
so.
Well, quickly, are there any non-discrimination clauses within these policies?
I have the individuals looking into the whole thing, like
Okay.
requested for adding that piece. I just haven't gotten it back yet.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Goodwine, may I ask a question?
I'm not sure I'm going to answer, but go ahead.
Is it policy that we have to submit concerns and proposals for revisions to the policy committee?
To the you talking about things that are on the floor?
Is that policy, is that district policy that has to be submitted in writing?
I don't know that per se, but I do believe you have to give comments in the superintendent's office.
So it is not policy that we have to submit our concerns in writing?
Board member, you were on policy last year, so you would know or not know. I can't
Right.
tell you every policy off the top of my head.
Right, we
so-
accepted verbal changes to policy
Are
when
there
I
any
was
other
on the
questions
policy committee.
policy? Go ahead, Board Member Smith.
Question, and when I reached out that day, I had a family situation, so I wasn't able to attend policy. My question is, when we look at the fraternization policy, my question is, I know we understand we look at policies as how we can help things within our district. If you could give me, how does it help our district, and how does it help us in a case where, say if there is a teacher at school A, teacher at school B, not working together, not under direct supervision, if they are to report if they are in a relationship, how in then turn does that help us as a district? That is my question when we talk about that policy, is what does that do for us, and knowing that, how does that kind of, or even if it does, protect us in any way to have an employee disclose that they're in a relationship with someone who is not a direct report?
I think it's the opposite part of there is ensuring that people don't become direct reports of individuals that they are in relationships with.
Okay, and then to follow up with that, then would they then have to disclose if they are no longer in that relationship?
Probably should tell us, but I don't think it states that or not.
Okay, and then I guess another follow-up would be then, at what point would we want them to disclose that they are in said relationship? Just my concern is just, especially then if we're dealing in situations where I get not wanting people to have to work in direct reports and having to watch those kind of things, but also understanding people's privacy and, say if there's a relationship that they do not really want to disclose, what are the protections for them and not having those disclosed outside of who they report that to?
So I'm going to ask our legal department to come up because I did have this drafted and send it over to the legal
Appreciate
to
it.
try to answer some of those questions for you, you know, put you on the spot, Alex. You gotta come to the mic.
Just as a matter of information, I think the value of a fraternization policy is that it allows the employer to have notice that there's a consensual relationship between two parties. And, you know, when the analysis regarding, you know, sexual harassment is it a unwanted sexual advance? And if it's unwanted, you know, the consent is obviously, you know, a major factor there. You know, and that's typically relevant for purposes of determining whether, you know, there's some sort of quid pro quo relationship, if there's a supervisory versus, you know, non-supervisory relationship, if there is a hostile work environment. So having noticed that there's, you know, that there is a workplace relationship, you know, it's not really an intent to pry into people's private lives so much as, you know, the workplace has kind of become a place where people connect and have relationships, and if they do have a relationship, you know, knowing that's consensual is helps protect us from, you know, allegations later that, you know, we allowed, you know, if we had knowledge of a, you know, of a relationship, and if it, you know, ceases to be consensual, then it's something that, you know, could result in potential liability.
Okay, I've got to follow up with that. So then, in looking at the policy, the part about the failure to disclose that is also troubling to me in that, like, you know, say two employees, not in the same buildings, not in the same departments, they have a relationship, however it may brief or whatever, and they fail to disclose that, and say someone goes, hey, I saw such and such and such and such at this bar, and then report to some, like, where does that then put that employee? I just don't want them feeling that they have to go, if they go for a date with someone, they have to go and then talk to somebody and say, hey, me and such and such went on this date, just letting you know. Where do we as the district look at that? And then would be that punishment for them for failing to do that?
Well, I don't want to opine about that. I would prefer to give an opinion regarding that type of situation that would involve discipline in a private session. But I think in general, what I would say is that, you know, managing human resources is kind of an art form, and a lot of it does depend on, it really does, it's going to depend on the facts and circumstances, and, you know, having a bright line rule, you know, what is, you know, flirting over a text, what is, you know, when you cross a line where it becomes more of a relationship, you know, if you go on one date, if it's a friendly, you know, those things really are hard to pin down. But I think the intent of the policy is that if you do have an ongoing relationship, that, you know, HR should be notified, just so that there's, you know, not a, you know, a claim later that, you know, this was, you know, that there's a dispute later about whether there was a relationship. And this has become more common, I think, in workplaces as, you know, it's, you know, I think, if you look at statistics, the workplace has kind of become a more common place for relationships to happen.
If I could piggy on that, then Chief Manning was charged with creating the regulation to actually accompany this for HR to have some direction on this, because it will require our HR team, which is now currently led by Dr. Jones, to come up with a regulation that address exactly what you're talking about on their part. But they need the policy to be able to put that next piece in play.
Appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Any other questions? Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. Quick question, or one question. Has the superintendent's office, board office, legal department, they've all had a chance to review and make their recommendations to these policies that are being voted on tonight?
That's correct. They usually send them all to the legal department before they come over.
Got you. And so I would like to, would you be in favor of tabling these votes because there are so many questions about the content of a few of these policies until the business meeting next week?
I mean, we've gone over the 30-day period at this juncture. would you like to send those to legal, your questions? Or, I mean, what do you want to do with them?
Yeah, so I would like to give the board an opportunity, because it sounds like there's some individuals who didn't know, but I do have some questions, and I don't want to exhaust the evening, about some of the revised to adjust district practices, as well as some of the codes on the ORC codes for the new policies that I think are inaccurate for the policy as it is written.
Okay. And you want to table all 6, 7 of them?
If it would please the board.
It's the will of the board. If I could poll the board. A poll is for all of you guys. You have to say something.
I'm in favor of tabling these for further discussion.
Board Member Wick?
I will support tabling them for discussion, but I would like to, talk around policy a bit. And, policy is meant to guide us and to to state expectations in a way. And I think that we walk the line oftentimes sitting in these seats to sit in positions where we can create policy that may victimize people, and I am not in favor of that. So I will continue discussion on it to the degree of the board, but I have spent 18 months in some of this work up here, and I'm getting a little, it continues to draw us off course of the work, and it's seemingly a little exhausting to continue to try to create loopholes to victimize people. So I'll continue the discussion, but I want it to be known that I think there are some that's all.
All right, and I'm just going to ask, because you guys have had these policies now for well over 30 days, that if you can take the time to read them and to reach out to the legal team, because again, you've had ample amount of time to review for us to move forward.
Madam President, Mayor.
Go ahead.
So I don't want anyone to get it misunderstood on my point. I've reviewed them. And so the question becomes, you're saying send them to the legal. When do we get the updated to our thoughts regarding?
If there are changes that you want to go back through policy, then you have to send something back through policy. If there's something that you would like to try to change on the floor, then you try to change it on the floor.
So what do we give to legal?
If you have a question of it, send your question to legal.
Got it.
If you are trying to poll the board to change something, because the policy committee has already voted on these things. It's already gone through the proper channel.
Got it.
So at this juncture, it is the board that is that wants to either make a change to something to put on the floor for the body to make a decision.
And what you're saying is the policy committee voted on all of 7 of these to be presented to be voted upon, and they were okay with all of this.
Asked and answered already,
Got it.
yes.
I just
Everything
want it
that
clear.
comes out from
Thank
the
you.
policy committee goes through a process. If it fails a policy, it does not make it to this board.
Got it, thank you.
One more thing, too. I think I said victimize, and I really want to say weaponize. I used the wrong word. So I think that we sit in important positions as we create these policies, and to potentially use something to create negative consequences for our employees or anybody, I think is walking a fine line of inappropriateness.
If I may, Madam President, just a comment to follow up for Board Member Sampson. I think that is I guess for the whole board, think that is the distinction is, the things that we need to send to legal. And I think that is a good practice, being that everybody's not in policy committee, to get those to send off to legal, which I think that is the good thing for having that first and second reading. It gives us that opportunity to do that. Then I think also there's comments of sometimes what do we want to change on the floor. I think one example was last year when you had asked for a friendly amendment to one of Dr. Goodwine's policies, which also lets us know that we can also bring policy up to the floor and make those changes on the floor, that is one of our duties here as board members. So I just wanted to put that out there, and that is that. And my questions, like I said, were more so, as I wasn't there, wanted to ask some questions that I would have asked in policy committee as well, as to kind of where that puts us as a district. So I appreciate our legal, I appreciate Dr. Goodwine and Ms. Witt-Gagne for the work that they were doing along the policy committee, which, for those who do not know, also includes people from our executive cabinet and in our departments here. So all those things also are part of policy. So appreciate you for giving me that time, President Goodwine.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, pursuant to section 121.22G2 of the Ohio Revised Code, I move that this board go into executive session. This meeting is being held to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal of a public employee, and to confer with an attorney involving pending or imminent court action. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any questions?
Quickly, Dr. Goodwine, I'm feeling unwell. Will be taking my leave at this point.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
One question.
Go ahead.
And if we're not speaking then on the matter that was pulled,
can we vote on it now?
Can we vote on it now instead of making people wait as we go into executive session?
I believe Joe Lacey, Board Member Lacey, was also absent on the board retreat, so I would encourage you to go ahead and have that discussion in
Mr.
executive
Lacey,
without me.
Did you want to go over the issue at hand?
Yes.
All right, I guess we can.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwine?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wick?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Lacey?
Yes.
7 yeses.
My name is Kevin G. Jewett. I work for Dayton Public Schools. I am a bus driver and OBI trainee at this time. When I joined DPS, it was at a time where me as a bricklayer, I couldn't find a job, and they have kept me working ever since I got here. Long as, you have integrity, they trust you. There's primarily integrity and trust. Long as you're fair about that, they're fair with you. A bus driver to me means freedom and integrity, issues that I can be trusted, and you can trust me with your children. The ones I carry, they know I'm gonna treat them, and their parents know that I'm gonna treat them just like I treat my kids. Zero tolerance, bullying, and whatever, and that I have their best interest. After all, they're the most precious cargo. I love driving. I never thought I would love driving, but I love driving, and I'll pick any kid up anywhere. And once they're in my care, you best believe I'm gonna do my best to protect them.
Hello DPS students, I'm Anthony Green and I attend Ponus Career Technology Center. Today I am going to help you learn how to use the Greater Dayton Regional Transit Authority, also known as RTA, for your school transportation. From finding a route to riding the bus and arriving safely at your destination. This video will cover everything you need to know to begin using the RTA today. Let's get started. Finding a route. There are several different ways to find a route to take you to and from school or any other location. If using your phone, find your Google or Apple Maps and type in your destination. Change your mode of travel to taking a bus, which you can do by tapping the bus icon. From here, your phone will display your route from walking to the bus stop, riding the bus, and exiting the bus, and walking to your final destination. This same process can take place on a desktop computer. Simply go to Google Maps, type in your destination, change the mode of travel to a bus, and view your route options. If your starting location is not currently filled in, you can type in the address of the location you will be starting from. You can also download the free transit app to view routes. Type in your current location and your destination to view the RTA route you should take. The transit app will also tell you when you should start walking to the bus stop in order to arrive just before the bus pulls up. If you would like to view each RTA route schedule in detail, you can visit the RTA website at iRideRTA.org. From there, select routes and click on each route to view a map, stop locations, and arrival times. Waiting at the bus stop. It is good practice to get to your bus stop at least 5 minutes before the bus is scheduled to arrive. While waiting on the bus, it is important to make yourself visible so the bus driver knows you're waiting. A good way to do this is to stand up and wave when you see the bus approaching. Remember to be fair ready by having your pass in your hand before boarding the bus. Entering the bus and paying for your ride. When you enter the bus, you will need to tap your pass on the payment reader. The passes are good for an unlimited number of rides in a 31-day period. The 31-day period starts the first time you tap your pass. If you receive a new pass before the old one expires, do not activate the new pass until you need it. This will ensure you continue to have unlimited rides throughout the entirety of the next month. It is your responsibility to remember when you activated your pass. To do this, you can mark the date of your first scan and expiration date on the card. DPS is providing students with monthly passes. Passes will be distributed at each high school on a monthly basis. Please speak to your principal if you need one. Note that these cards will not be reloadable and expire after 31 days. Riding the bus. Please take a seat or stand and hold onto a handrail or safety strap while the bus is moving. If you're standing, please be sure to stay behind the yellow line at the front of the bus for your safety. Other rules of the road include no smoking of any kind, no eating or drinking. If you bring food or drinks on board, they must be in a sealed container. While listening to music, wear headphones. Refrain from speaking on cell phones. Customers must not use profanity or engage in disruptive behavior. Vandalism of RTA property is not tolerated. Customers must keep the aisles clear to allow others to pass. If there is limited seating, please allow older customers and those with disabilities to sit down near the front of the bus. Please follow these rules and any other instructions provided by your driver. If rules are not followed, passengers may be removed from the bus. Exiting the bus. When the bus is approaching your stop, you must signal to the driver that you need off by pulling the cord on the side of the bus. Pull the cord after you pass the stop just before the one you need. When exiting the bus, please exit through the rear door to allow people entering the bus to use the front door. Remember that traffic does not stop for transit vehicles. Never cross in front of the bus. And obey all traffic laws and watch for oncoming traffic after exiting. Please exercise caution while crossing roads and intersections. If you have additional questions about using RTA, please visit iRideRTA.org.
Hi, I'm Brett Collins in the Media Arts program at Ponus CTC. Today, I am here at Ponus interviewing Art Student of the Month, Javon Christian. Javon is a student in the Graphic Art and Design pathway at Ponus Career Technology Center. He is an outstanding student with excellent attendance. He prioritizes his grades and has maintained all A's and B's since starting at Ponus. Javon is involved in the community and even volunteered as a poll worker for the last election. He also volunteered to distribute Thanksgiving dinners throughout the community during his Thanksgiving break. Javon demonstrates the Ponus 5 P's of being punctual, prepared, polite, presentable, and productive every day. How does it feel to be Student of the Month, and then what did your family say about the accomplishment?
It feels great to be Student of the Month. I was kind of shocked to find out that I actually won it, but in my family, they was really happy for me. A lot of support came my way.
What was it like for you going through from freshman year all the way to now and picking your pathway, and what forced you into getting into graphic arts?
Well, what really made my decision into going into this pathway was like my love for art. I really like art and drawing and stuff. It was like kind of my passion. And like from freshman year to now, I was kind of nervous, you know, first time in high school. So I was really mainly focused on my work, but like, hey, I wasn't trying to fall behind.
Going forward, what are your long-term goals in life past high school?
I really haven't decided yet, but like seeing the different jobs and stuff that's aligned with this pathway, I would be interested in doing stuff like that.
What type of jobs?
Designing logos for different businesses, making my own brand of t-shirts and clothing.
What made you come to Ponus, and when you got here, was it what you expected? And how's your experience have been so far?
What made me come to Ponus was like the different pathways they got here, and like the different opportunities I would be able to have coming out of high school.
So since you've been in this pathway, since this is your first year, what's a highlight moment for you in this pathway? What has a teacher said to you? What stood out?
So a highlight moment would be like, we had this thing called Business BPA, or Business Professionals of America. Had like a big field trip, went to that, and for like a competition and designing stuff against other schools around the city and the country. Our pathway, we did good. We went to state.
So you like competing with other people and showing them that you're the best? Okay. The last question I want to ask you, what advice would you give to somebody coming into this pathway?
I would say have an open mind about coming into it. Don't think that it is boring. Focus on your work, but also try to like have fun.
My name is Gary Armstrong. I am the assistant principal at Kemp Elementary School, graduating from Dunbar High School, having attended DPS since kindergarten. DPS has had a great positive impact on my entire family and given me and several members of my family rewarding careers. I love impacting the lives of students, male and female. Mentoring and coaching has been a passion of mine my entire career. I enjoy being a role model for students. The benefits of working in DPS are endless. Dayton Public Schools provides a great place for employees to develop as professionals and positively impact the families and students of our community.
Welcome Stadium, this is a great place to host special events, and especially when it's an event for Edwin C. Moses Relays. We had a good mix of teams from all over the place. We actually had a team from West Virginia, some Cleveland schools, some Cincinnati schools, so it's always good to have different competition and to be able to share our home with a variety of people.
Well, it was amazing because this is their first time being able to compete on the facilities track, and they found out it's a lot different than before. It's a lot faster than before, and not only that, but to experience having a gentleman who never lost a race in 10 years here to watch them and to provide them with medals. It was an amazing experience.
The Dayton Relays, as it was called, we should really work to build that up because it was one of the top track meets in the state of Ohio. People from all around the state would come, all the best schools, all the best relays. You know, this is a prime facility, and we need to get kids more involved in sports on a competitive level as well as sports on the academic level.
The Dayton Public School District is a thriving school system serving students from preschool through high school. With more than 12,000 students across 27 schools, parents can feel confident that their students will receive a high quality education and graduate prepared for lifelong success. Here are 11 reasons you will love Dayton Public Schools. All DPS preschools are 5-star rated by the Ohio Department of Education and are free for students. All 1st through 3rd grade classrooms implement the district's successful double teaching model to increase academic achievement and close gaps. All 4th through 6th grade classrooms provide high-dosage tutoring for students, which reduces class size and provides students with more individualized instruction. Students of all ages have career exploration opportunities to help them learn about different career paths and develop an understanding of what is required to make their dreams a reality. DPS has one-to-one technology, which means all students have access to a Chromebook. DPS is home to one of the world's 41 Challenger Learning Centers, where students get hands-on experience with science, math, engineering, design, and learn about space travel and exploration. The district offers music and art opportunities at all grade levels. Middle and high school students can even take part in an all-city band to perform with students from across the district. Middle school students can participate in Project Lead the Way classes to explore STEM concepts and learn valuable life skills. These courses are designed to teach students to be problem solvers, critical thinkers, and team players. The district cares about both students and their families. Family resource coordinators are in many schools to help connect families to any resources they may need. And student resiliency coordinators and student behavior therapists are available to any student who may need counseling or support. The district offers 2 career technology centers to prepare students for college and careers. At Ponitz CTC and Meadowdale CTC, students can choose from dozens of pathways and begin working toward industry credentials in their chosen field. All high school students can participate in College Credit Plus courses, which allows them to earn college credits for free during high school. These credits transfer to public colleges and universities after graduation. Students can even earn an associate degree while in high school. Learn more and enroll today at DaytonPublic.com.
Hello, I'm Chase Wells, a scholar, leader, and now a graduate of Dayton Public Schools. I want to say thank you to Dayton Public Schools. You mean so much to me because of everything I was able to accomplish in these past 4 years of high school. In doing that, you guys created a foundation for me to rely on for my future endeavors. In these past 4 years, I have learned that having a plan is key to your success. Without a plan, you're blindly headed into life, making it hard to push yourself to that next step. DPS provides a great opportunities for students to find their plan and get them past high school as they did for me. DPS has made me a better person by introducing me to the Males of Color program back when I was a sophomore. The Males of Color program provides lots of help, fun activities, but most of all, a family. With that, I became more confident in myself and more determined to do good in my community, and that has made me into the striving young man I am today. For my future graduates, stay focused, know your plan, and be the best that you can be. You are your greatest enemy. Only you can stop you from being great. The sky is the limit. And now, this is the last episode in case you missed it for the school year. DPS High Schools held college and career signing days for seniors. These annual events allow students to declare their post-graduation plans, whether it be college, a career, entering the military, or another path. Students then sign a banner that will hang in the school next year as a reminder to other students to prioritize academics and attendance to reach their goals. Congrats to the class of 2023. The Columbus Crew mascot surprised Belhaven students for winning the March Mania attendance competition. Students were called up to high-five the mascot, receive a certificate, and get their photo taken. Keep up the great attendance next year, Bobcats. The annual All-City Arts Festival was held earlier this month. Approximately 450 students from all grade levels performed songs, played musical instruments, and showcased their artistic talents. Thank you to all who helped make the day a success. The annual employee retirement celebration was held at the Dayton Art Institute. This year, 52 retirees were recognized. The retirees enjoyed dinner, music, and then a recognition program to celebrate their years of service to the district. Collectively, these employees devoted more than 1,284 years to DPS. Thank you for your service. We wish you the best in retirement. After a long year, that's it for this episode in case you missed it. Catch us back in August for more district highlights and follow us on social media to get the most up-to-date news 24/7. I'm Chase Wells, and remember, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Class of 2023, we out.
Hello, my name is Kamaya Hilton Thomas, and I am a senior at Stiver School for the Arts. I started taking College Credit Plus classes in the 8th grade up until this year, where I recently got my associate's degree before my high school diploma. I started with very few classes, and then I just kept growing and growing. Many people recommended I keep a small course load, but I kept leveling up and taking as many as I could. So I kept maxing those hours out, and over the summer I took 16 or 15 credit hours so I can just be one step closer to getting my degree. Not many people have an associate's degree. Straight out of high school, some people, go start working without a degree, or maybe they even take a gap year or go to school. So to have that one thing done and accomplished is great. It's gonna save me a tremendous amount of money. Even though I have gotten a scholarship, it also helps though, because it's that scholarship is only 4 years. So if I go over that time, or I need to help and take other courses, I have that done. And that actually has helped me, because that's basically a free degree that I can lean back on.
Hi, I'm Haley Chavez, a media arts student attending Ponent CTC, and I'm here at Edison to interview our Student of the Month, Kennedy Thomas.
Kennedy is a leader at Edison. She always strives for excellence in her academic work, has great attendance, and follows the school's 3 Bs of being respectful, responsible, and safe. She was a member of the school's Math Olympics team. She's president of the student council, and her science fair project placed in the school's event. Kennedy is dependable, trustworthy, and is an excellent example for other students.
Tell us your name, your school, and your grade.
My name's Kennedy. I go to Edison Elementary, and I'm in 6th grade.
What are your responsibilities in student council?
At student council, my responsibility is to mostly give my opinions on things before we send it out to the school, like Spirit Week, which is this week. I had to give my opinion on most of the options for what we could do. And when we plan things like our spring dances and stuff like that, we have to make sure that we show what's best interest for the students before we post it out and make people know that what's coming.
So can you tell us a little bit about your time here and some of the teachers that have impacted you the most while you've been going here?
My time here has been amazing. I came here first when I was in 3rd grade, and I'm now in 6th grade. At first it was a little rocky because it was when the pandemic had first hit when I first got here. So I didn't really get to meet the students before we had to leave and come back. But when we came back, it was different. I met new people, I made amazing friends while I was here before I have to leave. And one of my favorite memories and my favorite teachers are probably my 5th grade teacher, Jennifer Kane. She helped me out a lot last year. I was struggling a lot last year with most of my subjects, and she was just helping me in ways I don't think any other teacher has helped me, which was really amazing because some teachers can't do that. And another one of my favorite teachers probably has to be my 4th grade teacher, Miss Carrington. She was always helpful, and whenever I needed something from her, she would always help me with it, whether it was at school or at home or whatever it was. She would always help me, and she was one of my biggest supporters. Even now that I'm in the 6th grade, she still helps and supports me in different ways.
What are you most looking forward to next year?
Next year, I'm looking forward to going to my new school, Stivers, and doing a lot of theater plays and trying to keep up my act from this year and just moving it to Stivers.
What is something you're looking forward to this summer?
This summer, I'm looking forward to going on vacations with my family. Me and my family, we mostly spend our summertime going to water parks and amusement parks. And I can't wait to go swimming, and we're going to Canada after we get out of school. So this summer is going to be something I look forward to, vacation, family time, stuff like that.
It's just an opportunity for the entire community to benefit from a very, very nicely renovated stadium. Today, they're putting up a beam at the top of the press box as a kind of a symbolic, we're almost there. Shook invited everyone out for lunch and then also to sign the beam, and then they're going to hoist the beam up behind us. So we're very excited about the fact that we are nearing completion of this project. Raising the beam today means that we are completing this work. You know, we are moving forward. We have a new press box that's going to be in place, and putting that beam up there just signifies the fact that we are on track. We are moving forward for the fall season to open up with a full, brand new stadium for our students and for our fans and for the community at large. So today, very symbolically, is just we're there. We're moving forward and we've got it. So that's really why we're out here celebrating today.
Seeing these type of things happen, it's a sign of hope that we're all continuing to build upon what we believe could happen in this district. That beam is one little step of it. When the stadium was built in its original capacity, everyone from grade school students to big corporations put in on this to come into fruition. And that's the same as today. The district itself, the Board of Education, has funded the majority of the project because we believe so strongly that this is going to be a game changer, not only for our schools, but for our region.
So for this facility to be renovated at this period of time, it's just an outstanding opportunity for athletes today and athletes in the future to have a place to play that's really significantly different, and it is state of the art.
This key is a key to the city. Now, I could say it opens every door. That would be not telling the truth. But it's symbolic of someone that we want to make sure that they feel welcome every time they come to Dayton.
College career and military signing day is extremely important because students are making a commitment to themselves and their future. And what we try to do is encourage them to choose something that they're going to do that they'll move on to after graduation. And it's really an important commitment that they're making to themselves. So we want to make sure that they understand that they have a support system in the Dayton Public Schools and in the community in case they need resources and in case they need help. We're here to support them because they are always part of DPS. Our high schools are very, very comprehensive. Any student that goes through any one of the Dayton Public School high schools has that opportunity to make those choices and to be educated and prepared for any career path that they make.
Today was a day of excitement and enthusiasm and an inspiration for kids. Our goal is to inspire kids by doing and experiencing science in really fun ways. So if we can make science fun and exciting, they're going to gravitate towards those things, and then they're going to be like, oh, I need to do more of that, and I want to try that. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to try new things, because science is all about learning, exploring, and really just investigating the world around us. Being able to come out to a school like Roosevelt Elementary and working with Dayton Public Schools is really important, because I want these kids to see and I want them to experience science in a way they've never experienced it before. Make it fun, make it big, make it explosive, but most importantly, make it relatable to them. And that's what this whole program is all about. What we got to do today, what I got to do on stage, doing all my demonstrations, was fun. But the engineering design challenge, where kids are building and they're testing and they're figuring things out, that's what science is really all about, is figuring out, oh, that didn't work. How do I make it better? Or, oh, let's try that again, but let's change it just a little bit. That variable needs to change. So watching them build their towers and actually figuring out how to get that ping pong ball as high as they possibly could, that's amazing. And you could just see their wheels working the whole time. And that's what this is all about, is getting them to be okay with trying it, but most importantly, with not getting it right the first time.
My name is Brandon Stillimer, and I'm the automotive teacher here at Ponitz. I'm actually a Ponitz automotive graduate. After I graduated, I went to the military and became a mechanic for the military. After that, I came back and went to college and ended up coming here to teach at the program I graduated from. In this program, I learned the basic skills like tools, theories, and principles of how brakes work, how engines operate.
My sophomore year, we took motors. We broke them all down, put them right back together. My junior year, we did electrical. I loved electrical.
Pretty much the basics right now: oil change, tire rotations, tire changes, how engines work, performance.
They're learning how to use the machines in here, the lifts, tools, and everything. I've learned how to break down engines, fix cars. I've learned how to do electrical. I'm in electrical now.
This is my first time working on a project car, like kind of by myself, but it's not a one-man job at all. You need a team.
So I think the biggest benefit is not only do they get to learn at an earlier age, but also they can take the skills they learned and get employment earlier. This program, we partner with a lot of really good partners, and we can get them into job placement. They're starting to build their networking earlier in life than waiting until later.
Everybody can't teach you how to work on a car. Our teachers are here for it, to break down and show us what really goes into a car besides the basics.
It's cool to see the progression from when I was here to what the district is now, and then what we're looking forward in the future.
Dayton Public Schools have prepared me for my future to be successful in my automotive industry and strive for my dreams.
I want to end up opening my own business and helping other people who are in need of cars or just working on the cars.
Through our advisory committee, we're finding out what the real world needs, and we're building those technicians to get them into what is the current need for the industry.
My name is Mark Fairhurst. I am the teacher leader or lead teacher at Horace Mann Elementary, and this is my 6th year in this role. DPS is a great place to land for a career. If you want to work in a district with tremendous diversity and with unique challenges in an inner city environment, and you don't want to just choose the path of least resistance and the easiest career where I guess I would call it just putting it on autopilot and expecting your students are all going to be self-learners, this is the place for you. You will have, again, tons of opportunities to work in unique settings with children of diverse backgrounds who have tremendous needs. We all recognize that, we acknowledge that, but we don't steer away from it. We welcome that. We relish the opportunities to demonstrate what a great staff we have and what a great district we have. And time again, I've seen people step up to those challenges and take them on and be a real difference maker in someone's life. When I interviewed for this role, I remember Dr. Lawley, after asking me the interview questions, asking me if I had any questions, and I said yes. Tell me that I will have the opportunity to work closely with staff in a way that will make a difference in their lives. tell me it's going to be about changing lives, and by extension, helping teachers change children's lives by equipping them to be better at the craft than they were before we met and before we worked through the coaching process. When I get up in the morning, I need to know that what I do professionally makes a difference. And so that motivates me, challenges me to come to work prepared to do the best possible job that I can, regardless of what I'm called to tackle that day.
Remember, we tell you before, there are 4 reasons why you vote: for candidates or issues that benefit you, your livelihood, your family, and your community. No other reason. You don't vote because someone is tall or short, black or white, male or female, Republican or Democrat. You vote those 4 reasons. That takes care of you and your family and your community.
So today is the first time I'm going to be voting for my family. My family is from Mexico, so I'm the first generation from my family. So right now, this is everybody in the background is voting for the first time. It was a very amazing experience. I like that we were crossing like around the bridge, and you know, it was just a very powerful moment where, you know, it's like your first time and you're going to have that as your memory to like, oh, I remember I have to cross the bridge to like vote. If you want to fix something that is really injustice, then your vote really does matter. Like every person votes matters. Voting for the first time is kind of like exciting because, you know, I get to go home and then just tell my parents that I just voted, and then they just seem proud of me because they never experienced like something like this of voting before. So I'm like kind of like giving them like a chance to like, oh, if like something is wrong, I'm able to like make the change.
The season was pretty good. I loved it. I enjoyed every moment. What I enjoy most is the atmosphere that my team provides. I feel like it's a good atmosphere, good energy, good vibes.
Being a senior, this is my last year, so it was pretty sad, but watching the freshmen come in and grow to become better and to look up to us, it was really good overall, and I think our boys did really good. They went pretty far. To be a cheerleader is more than just accessory to the basketball team. It's really just to push your team on. We're like a support system. Also, we're like a hype squad. So I feel like without the cheerleaders, it's not a team.
Well, I have the memory of me being the first male cheerleader of Ponence, and I'll say I would cherish that forever because it's a time in history that I feel that I've actually changed something, and I'm actually doing something that represents people like me.
I just want to say to our coaches, thank you for pushing us to be the best that we ever could, and I thank you for everything you have done for me over the 4 years, everything you have done for this program. Thank you.
Here in Northwest Dayton, we announced a major project in partnership with Dayton Public Schools to create a learning garden at Fairview Elementary.
This is a community-inspired event and location. My name is John Steinbrenner. I'm one of the designers at Grunder Landscaping, and I'm just lucky enough to be a part of bringing it to life.
I am so happy to be here tonight, and I want to thank everyone that's been a part of this process. The Northwest Dayton project is such a great opportunity for Northwest Dayton residents. Here at Fairview Elementary in particular, we're going to have a beautiful garden thanks to this group that envisioned it for our students. So I'm so excited. I'm so thankful for the partnership with Learn to Earn Dayton, with the Northwest Dayton Project, with Omega CDC, with all of our partners that have made this possible. Grunder Landscaping, everyone has made this possible. And I'm so thankful for that.
So this is the game design programming pathway. A lot of it involves some basic, like your basic programming class, your game design class, the IT career field, and then the programming career field is ever ending. So, I mean, there's so many opportunities career-wise that kids can really look into and then build upon and get certifications in here to help when they leave here, they're better prepared, and then resume builders are, I mean, they can have as many as they want when it comes to certification, and that looks phenomenal for them. And within this current pathway, I mean, there's endless opportunities for kids when it comes to IT programming, game design. It's been very exciting for the kids that have come through. Some of the stuff we do in here is really cool and very innovative for 21st century learning skills.
I learned so far, I'm learning right now the basics of programming and all like functions and all that. And so like I think it's preparing me for the future because like I get to have some experience before I get like thrown out into college or into the real world. And so I could like jump into my career than have to wait and learn after I get out of high school.
I feel like DPS gives students a very big variety of choices that they want to do whenever choosing their pathway. So I feel like they're doing good, like giving students like a large amount of options.
So this is a career field and a pathway that you can come in and you want to enjoy. You'll enjoy it every day and want to come back. And so that's a huge push. And we can make it as relatable and applicable to students' lives as much as possible.
My name is Angela Shelton. I am the assistant principal at Fairview Elementary in Dayton Public Schools. So I enjoy working with Dayton Public Schools because of the interactions that I have with students on a day-to-day basis. It is those small opportunities to make connections and help students to self-regulate and getting their bodies ready to learn that I appreciate the most. I appreciate and I love working with the teachers in Dayton Public. Dayton Public has the most phenomenal teachers. I've learned so much from them during my years here in Dayton Public. And so it's those things, the students and the teachers and the connections that makes coming here. Everything that I hold true to me, everything that I value closely, I have actually been grounded in that through DPS. To be specific, when we talk about being equitable, it was through DPS where I was able to join the Montgomery County Equity Fellows and to really start digging in and having deep conversations around equity. I got that through DPS. When I think about social emotional learning, which is very dear to my heart, I got that through DPS, through Conscious Discipline and our partnership with Learn to Earn and Preschool Promise. When you talk about instructional strategies and approaches to learning, I dug deep in that through DPS. So I am the professional that I am right now because of the initiatives and the strategies and the approaches that are grounded in Dayton Public Schools.
My name is Richard Rayford. I am the Senior Executive Director for Dayton Public Schools. So our staff has a very important role into education, which they make sure that the buildings are clean for the students, which helps them to focus more on the education part of school, so they have a better opportunity to learn. DPS has had a huge impact on my family. I've actually had 4 children that graduated from DPS who are successful. 2 are nurse, and 1 is a semi-driver for a big company. I've also had probably 10 nieces and nephews that has attended DPS as well, and I currently have probably about 7 great nieces and nephews that attend Dayton Public Schools. And I enjoy coming into the schools when I see their smiling faces, and they like to see their uncle come in and talk to them and try to help them to gain a better path for their education. Personally, DPS has impacted me both professionally and personally, and I enjoy the opportunity that it has provided. If you enjoy contributing to the education of children, this is a great place to start. There's an opportunity for growth in your success. If you like to advance your career, there's excellent opportunities here for you to advance your career. And I've been here 17 years, and I wouldn't trade any year for working here.
We are having our groundbreaking ceremony for Welcome Stadium project, and right now we're going to have some amazing things happening here. More importantly, we are going to have all our student athletes been able to use the facility. So our middle school, their football games are over here. Even our high schools, our soccer games are played here. We have many community members that come through here, 5Ks. They run around the building and they run inside the building. At some point, we want to bring concerts here too. We were intentional with our lighting, so it's not just white lights, but we have color lights too. So the upgrades on our Wi-Fi so that, people can use their electronic devices, and when UD come here, they're not having issues, or any other colleges that may want to use it. We also were intentional with the track with making sure we put our college lines on there too. It's definitely going to be a multi-purpose facility for sure.
I think the most exciting thing is just the feel you get when you talk to people about it. From talking to kids to talking to our elders, they're all excited about this. There's so many pieces. There's people who are, they want to come down and buy a shirt from the Spirit Shop before a game. Or there's people who want to come out and they spent time looking at some of the trophies and old pictures. There's people, the kids are like, I can't wait to run on that track and get out on that field. So just knowing that we're doing so much that people are just excited about different pieces, I think that's what makes me excited, is just seeing the excitement in people's faces. It's going to be a magnificent facility. It's going to be somewhere they can come out and enjoy and be their best. And I think our community should be excited for what it can bring to not only our students, but for the city and the region, as far as getting some activities here and being a community space that everybody can enjoy.
The thing that I'm most excited about is just the actual opportunity for our students to play on a high quality field. I come to a lot of football games. I come to soccer games here. Band competitions, whenever there are outside groups that come in, also occur here. And just to have a place that our students are proud of, a place that they'll enjoy playing on, because this is a legacy stadium. I mean, 1949 was when this was built originally, and while it's in okay condition, it's been kept up as much as you can. It's time for a resurfacing, a refacing, a revisioning of what this should look like, and that's what's happening right now. I think that we should all be excited for this upcoming change because it's a reality now. We've talked about it for a few years here whenever I've been the superintendent, but it's a reality now. And I know other people have talked about it for years and years and years. It's reality. Today, it's the beginning.
Show that the Board of Education of the Dayton City School District has just completed an executive session during which it considered the appointment, employment, dismissal of a public employee and conferred with an attorney involving pending or imminent court action. I move that we exit executive session.
Second.
I moved it, so I just.
She moved it.
Y'all not listening.
Joe moved it.
I moved it.
seconded.
Okay.
Dr. Goodwine moved it, Mr. Lacy.
Dion and I did it just to make sure it got covered.
Okay.
Okay.
Who can I take?
I
Joe
moved
Lacy.
it, and Joe Lacy seconded it.
Okay.
Okay? All right, any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwine?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wick?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
She is excused for the rest of the meeting.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
6 yeses.
Thank you. I move that we suspend our motion to, no, I'm sorry. I move that we suspend our procedures for reconsideration for this one meeting to vote on item 16 on the 48-hour waiver rule, HR agenda.
So moved.
I moved it.
Second.
It is moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Taking Mr. Sampson.
No. I put the motion, Ms. Wick seconded.
And in the motion was a suspension of the rules.
Yes. Yeah, that's what we're voting.
So we're just voting to suspend the rules, or we're
Correct.
voting on both?
No, to suspend the
just to
rules.
suspend. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwine?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wick?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
6 yeses.
All right. Thank you. Is there a motion for the HR agenda item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. A reminder, we are voting on HR agenda 48-hour waiver number 16. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwine?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wick?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
5 yeses, 1 abstain.
All right, thank you. Resolution to adopt board policy first reading. In so much as the Board of Education is committed to the continual updating of its policies, rules, and regulations manual and the committee, which was appointed, has been working towards that goal. The following are being brought at this time for a first reading in compliance with Board File BFC policy adoption. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Dayton City School District, Montgomery County, Ohio, hereby accepts and adopts the following policies that have been codified for inclusion in the handbook, policies, rules, and regulations. BG, Board Staff Communication, CC, Administration and Organization Plan, DFE, DFEA, Gates and Receipts and Admissions / Free Admission, GBD, Board Staff Communication, IGDF, Student Fundraising Activities, IGDJ, Interscholastic Athletics, and to be determined, Whistleblower Protection. These policies are being read for the first time. As much, a motion or second is not required. These policies will be available in the superintendent's office to review and comment prior to their second reading and adoption by the Board of Education. Furthermore, the policies will be reviewed by the superintendent's office, the board office, and the legal department of the Dayton Public Schools prior to the second reading. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Wick, second by Dr. Pickett. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
6.
I hope we have a good start to the
Six
school
yeses.
year, guys. It's last meeting. So
Let's go.
convocation is tomorrow morning. Missed all that. There are no comments written on the agenda, so.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin.